Today, we will talk about several units from World War I that you definitely would not want as your enemies. These units entered history due to their bravery, incredible actions, and feats that even their enemies had to respect. Each of these units is from a different nationality, and I believe that some of them you have never heard of, but I assure you that their stories will not leave you indifferent. So, let's begin. We will start with a unit that I am sure you have not heard of. It comes from the Kingdom of Serbia, established during the bloody early 1900s, the 2nd Infantry Regiment Prince Mihailo. However, the name by which it entered history is the Iron Regiment. For the enemy, it was enough to know that the Iron Regiment was on the opposite side to completely lose the will to fight, while other Serbian units felt invincible when protected by the Iron Regiment. Their insane bravery amazed all the Allies who had the opportunity to fight alongside them, but their fame was forged on a bloody path with an exceptionally high casualty rate. The Iron Regiment lost about 66% of its soldiers and around 80% of its officers. At that time, officers led charges at the front of their men on the first battle line. A captured Bulgarian officer described a one-day battle with the Iron Regiment, where they fought for control of a hill, and both sides captured and lost the position 5 times, with enormous losses. However, just before nightfall, the Iron Regiment attacked for the 6th time and completely broke the Bulgarian resistance, causing them to flee while shouting that the crazy Iron Regiment was coming. The regiment fought in the most critical battles of the war and often played a key role in breaking through front lines, becoming the most decorated unit of the Kingdom of Serbia. Additionally, their flag was never captured by the enemy, and among their ranks was Milunka Savic, the most decorated woman in the world. She enlisted in place of her brother under a false name and posed as a man until she was seriously wounded for the first time, revealing her gender. Although the command was shocked, they decided to allow her to stay in her regiment because she had already proven herself as an exceptionally brave soldier. She was an effective grenadier, single-handedly destroying Bulgarian trenches and leading charges, and on one occasion she even single-handedly captured 23 Bulgarian soldiers during battle. The Iron Regiment participated in all the bloodiest battles until the end of the war with exceptional bravery, even being the last to cover the retreat during the horrific withdrawal of the Serbian army across the Albanian mountains. After this harrowing retreat on foot, the regiment recovered and regrouped in Greece, once again spearheading the breakthrough of the Thessaloniki front and the liberation of Serbia. It forever entered history, although at a terribly high cost. The next brutally efficient unit that struck fear into the hearts of their enemies was the German Stormtroopers. To break the stalemate of the trenches on the Western Front, Germany developed a new tactic that devastated Allied forces: Stormtroopers. When wave charges across no man's land proved unsuccessful, a new approach was adopted. Composed of battle-hardened, quick, strong, incredibly brave, and well-armed soldiers, this unit had the task of quickly and efficiently causing chaos in the enemy ranks. And they did so with remarkable success. The Germans perfected a tactic they had observed from the Russians on the Eastern Front: sudden, massive, and precise concentrated artillery strikes, followed by shock troops. To enter a stormtroop battalion, you had to be under 25 years old, single, mentally and physically tough, athletic, and aggressive. In fact, the concept of stormtroopers was based on aggression. They had the freedom to make independent decisions on the spot, without coordinating with high command. This gave them the ability to directly adapt to the conditions they found themselves in, proving to be extremely effective. However, their missions were exceptionally risky, and like the Iron Regiment, they had an exceptionally high casualty rate. Stormtroopers were lightly equipped but heavily armed. They were mainly armed with shortened Mauser M98 rifles, pistols like the Mauser C96, light machine guns, and carried a lot of ammunition and grenades. Of course, they were specialized in close combat and had special weapons for hand-to-hand combat. They even had grenadier squads that carried bags full of grenades and flamethrowers, or even small mortars. Additionally, they were all trained to use all types of weapons, even enemy ones if necessary. Let's explain a typical stormtroop attack. First, they would stealthily approach the enemy, usually using the cover of night or fog. They would silently cut the barbed wire and wait for a sudden, precise, aggressive artillery strike and immediately use the confusion to attack key positions. The attack was so fast and unexpected that often the enemy did not even know from which direction they were attacked or the actual number of attackers, quickly leading to panic and chaos. They would push through enemy trenches and attempt to encircle and destroy the enemy flanks and reinforcements, while the regular infantry would enter afterward to clean up the remaining resistance and hold the position. Although they had many successful key actions, often with significant losses, the mission would often fail because the regular infantry either did not manage to support them in time, or the stormtroopers went too deep into enemy territory and risked being cut off. Nevertheless, they were an extremely terrifying and effective unit of World War I. The next unit, similar in tactics to the German stormtroopers, with a legacy continuing even to this day, is the Arditi. Known as the Daring Ones, the Arditi were the special assault units of the Italian army. The Arditi evolved from the so-called Companies of Death, which were groups of volunteer soldiers who undertook the most dangerous and risky missions. The difference between the Arditi and the Companies of Death was that the Companies of Death primarily had the risky task of preparing the ground for the main infantry's attack, usually by cutting barbed wire or performing similar tasks. The Arditi, however, were selected from the bravest soldiers, exceptionally skilled in close hand-to-hand combat. Initially, the Arditi would often, under the cover of their artillery, stealthily approach enemy trenches. As soon as the artillery fire ceased, they would jump into the trenches with knives and hand grenades to efficiently clear the position and hold it for at least one day until the regular infantry could relieve them. Later, the Arditi would take on various dangerous missions and roles. They had special uniforms, and their emblem was a skull with a dagger in its teeth, symbolizing their willingness to fight to the death without surrender. They also had an exceptionally high casualty rate of around 30% per attack. Their motto was, "Either we win or we all die." And yes, it sometimes happened that the whole group wouldn't return from the mission. They were paid 3 times more than the regular army and even had cash bonuses for each captured enemy, equipment, or weapons. The type of hand grenade most used by the Arditi was the Thievernot firecracker. It did not have excessive power and could therefore be thrown in motion just in front of the assault wave without injuring the attacker. The advantage of this grenade was that it was very noisy, which could stun or cause fear in opponents who confused it with a normal hand grenade. Given the narrow spaces of the trenches, during assaults, bayonets became cumbersome and were replaced by daggers. Dagger fencing was the pride of the Arditi. There was a total of 6 simple and essential techniques that effectively distilled the complexity of combat. The small number of maneuvers allowed them to be mastered quickly. Their simplicity made them easy to perform, and the accuracy with which they were selected resulted in extreme effectiveness. The Arditi participated in numerous battles, with their most notable feats being the conquest of Kolmoshin, which was achieved in 20 minutes, 10 minutes of climbing and 10 minutes of fighting under enemy machine gun fire, and the breaking of the Piave line, which allowed the final victory over the Austro-Hungarian armies in November 1918. These units, though small in number, proved to be some of the most devastating forces of World War I. Their stories show that when soldiers are well prepared, meticulously organized, and expertly trained, they can deliver a crushing blow to even the most formidable enemies. If you would like us to cover other such units, please let us know.